Hello, everybody, and thank you for listening to Retold, a Harry Potter podcast, a show for Potter fans of all sorts to tune in and have fun living in the wizarding world just a little more. My name is Barry, and every week I sit down with a new guest host and we go through the Harry Potter books 2 chapters at a time. We highlight some of our favorite lines, movie changes, deep lore, and at the very end of the episode, we have a spoiler section called the Restricted Section. Ooh. Before we get to today's episode, I just wanted to let y'all know about something really cool that just happened. This week, I will get to be a guest host on the one and only MuggleCast podcast. Last week, we were fortunate enough to have Micah on this show, one of the co-hosts of that podcast, and he was kind enough to invite me onto MuggleCast, and we had a great time playing a whole episode's worth of Order of the Phoenix trivia. So head on over to their show this week to check out that episode. I also want to say that it was a dream come true to be on an episode of MuggleCast, and I am really thankful for them. Also, I wanted to apologize to all of you because I told you last week that my wife and I have started to record some anime retellings as well. And, every once in a while, not like every week, but every once in a while, we'll put up some of those episodes on the feed. And last week, we were going to put up our very first retelling of an anime. We recorded the episode, but I was unable to edit it in time. But fear not, our K-pop Demon Hunters retelling will come out this week, faux show. Now for today's episode, really excited for y'all to hear it. We have as our special guest a fellow Harry Potter podcaster. It's Dan from Hogwarts, a podcast. And you'll get to meet him in just a few moments. We recap chapters 5 and 6, have a really good time doing it. And something I want to let y'all know about ahead of time is that Dan has a very unique take on Professor Trelawney. Before we recorded this episode, he told me a good bit about it. And I decided we should save it for like restricted section talk. Based on the content of it, but you might hear us kind of allude to it or dance around it throughout the episode. But just know that all the reasons for that is disclosed in the restricted section. But yeah, it was really cool having him on, and I hope you guys enjoy the episode. Anyway, if you'd like to support this show, then it would be really helpful if you took a few moments to rate it on whatever podcast app you use. And if you would like to send me a message, howler, or owl post, feel free to do so by emailing me at theretoldpodcast@gmail.com or messaging me on Instagram at theretoldpodcast. And you can also follow me on YouTube at Potter Retold. Like I said last week, starting to put up more Harry Potter lore reels there. Anyway, let's get to the show.
Take her away, Ian.
Yeah, take it away, Ernie. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
Fell over? What you fell over for?
Out for a little walk in the moonlight.
7:30. Where were we at 7:30?
I solemnly swear that I am up to no good.
Turn to page 394.
You foul, loathsome, evil little cockroach!
I didn't mean to.
Mischief managed.
You and your bloody chicken.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for listening to Retold, the podcast where I retell you my favorite story of all time, Harry Potter. Every week, I go through the books chapter by chapter, but I'm never on this journey alone. I always have fantastic guests with me, and today I am joined by Dan from Hogwarts, a podcast. Hi, Dan.
Hey, thank you for having me. This is quite the honor to be asked to be on, so thank you.
Guys, Dan is being humble because he's just like that. But what you need to know, listeners, is that this is a treat. All right, you got a Potter professional on the line here. He might deny it all or anything, but Dan has a really great podcast, Hogwarts, a podcast, and I've listened to a bunch of episodes. We've listened to the ones we're going to be talking about today, but really cool show. I hope you check that out. I just noticed you guys are really close to 100 reviews on Spotify. And I was like, listeners, hit that up, get them to 100. So cool. But yeah, tell us a little bit about your podcast.
Yeah, we started a couple of years ago, and we wanted to go through the entire series and kind of revisit it because we are of a certain age now, me and a lot of my friends, and we read the books as they were coming out. We kind of grew up with the series. So we wanted to kind of revisit as adults and kind of dive back in and see what we liked, what we didn't like, and anything that we might have missed as younger adults or children, really. reading the books the first couple of times. And now we are all the way on Cursed Child. We actually finished the 7 main books really recently, actually, the beginning of this summer. So now we've moved on to Cursed Child, and we'll continue as we've kind of grown. So when we started, I didn't really think we were going to get many listens. And then we did. So now I'm kind of stuck continuing to do this, if you will.
It's a good problem to have.
It's a really wonderful thing. So very blessed.
What do you, I don't know if you have planned yet or not, but do you know what you're going to do after Cursed Child?
We're actually going to look into the movies. So I know you have your Transfiguration section. We're going to go through the movies. Some of my regular guests don't love the movies. Matter of fact, some of them actually hate them.
Wow.
Yes. And have only watched them one time because of that. So it'll be interesting to see them revisit those movies.
Maybe with the idea of lower expectations as they go in, they might enjoy it a little more.
I hope so. Yeah. It's always interesting to get those reactions, if you will.
Yeah. I think one thing, like I most of the movies I watched first up until about before the 5th movie came out, I watched all those movies first, and then would read the books. But what I've come to learn is that I feel like the books are more the movies are more supplementary. And if I enjoy it that way, it's much better. So there's my take on the movies. But yeah, so we're glad to have you on. And what I ask every single guest is I ask them for their fandom ID. And so listeners, if you don't know what that is, it's this concept I got from the MuggleCast show. Who you guys know, we had Micah on last episode from MuggleCast. And so the fandom ID is what your Hogwarts house is, what your favorite book is, your favorite movie, and how you got into Harry Potter. So take it away, Dan.
So I am a Ravenclaw. I have always identified as a Ravenclaw.
Mm-hmm.
However, I guess my secondary house would be Hufflepuff. And I know you've had some guests on recently who have said they've kind of merged. They started as one house and maybe have transitioned into another house as they've gotten older. I feel like Hufflepuff has kind of been that for me. Which is really
we all
cool.
tend to float to Hufflepuff eventually.
It's a great house, really. So I'm kind of I used to also, I don't know if you've ever taken this, I think BuzzFeed used to have a quiz that would break down which percentage of each house you were. So it'd be like Ravenclaw would be like 45, and then Hufflepuff would be like 40, and then it'd break down Gryffindor and Slytherin. So that was a really interesting quiz back in the day. I don't know if it's still up or not.
I'll check it out. I had this idea to and I'm going to make a YouTube video out of it for the channel, but to make ChatGPT take one of the house tests and like put them through the whole Hogwarts treatment of like, what's your Patronus and your wand and all that stuff. So maybe I'll look at the BuzzFeed one for that. But yeah.
My favorite book would be Order of the Phoenix.
Okay.
It's, I think, one of the most complete books. I think it has one of the best villains, which you love to hate. I mean, it got to the point where during our reread, we would just see a certain word, like a one-word thing pop up in the book, and you'd just be like, chills. So I think that was a really cool reaction. Yeah, exactly. So that was a really cool thing to kind of re-experience. Plus, it's got a complete, it's got a little bit of everything you'd want. Also a big fan of Goblet of Fire, though. Love me some Goblet of Fire. The movie, you can ask me this probably every day of the week, and I'd probably give you a different answer every day of the week.
I get that.
But for right now, I'm going to settle with Goblet of Fire. And I know it's not the best movie. I will firmly admit that it's not the best movie. It's just the one I probably watched the most. So I guess I would put it high on the rewatchability.
Yeah, I agree 100%. That's my favorite movie, simply because like when I was a kid and I'd get sick anytime, my mom would throw that one on, and it's like this one feels the most like home. It's the most rewatchable, which is funny because it has like such a dark ending, but I'm like, I love it. Love it.
Yep. I will tell you my least favorite Harry Potter movie, Half-Blood Prince.
No way.
Yes.
Why is that?
That was
We
the
can
only,
skip. We can a little bit of spoilers probably, but that's fine.
not even. I'll stay spoiler free on it. It was. I remember going to the midnight showing when they still had true midnight showings of movies.
Yeah.
And I went at midnight and I watched it, and I remember the movie ending, and I was actually angry.
No way.
Like I was actually sitting there in the movie theater, legitimately angry.
What a waste of going at midnight.
Yeah, well, they had left some what I thought were big plot points out of the movie, and that really, really bugged me. I've cooled on that hot take since, but it's still my least favorite.
I get that. Yeah, I think that one is also a for me a good background one. Like I don't like to sit and focus on it, but I can have it playing, and it's got some somewhat enjoyable moments, I guess. But you're right. I do
funny moments, but
yeah, I do wish there was a lot more the memory scenes. I would have loved more of those. But yeah. So and finally, how did you get into Harry Potter?
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, I'm of the age where it cropped up when I was about age 11. So I kind of grew up with the series, and I grew up with Harry. The story of me getting into it is a little interesting because I went to a Catholic grade school, and a teacher ended up reading it in class, which back in the day, that was a little controversial.
Yeah, bold move.
Yeah. So obviously there was that whole blowback about witchcraft and how it shouldn't be in a Christian setting or whatever. So it was a little controversial, but I was very happy that she introduced the class and introduced me to the series. So that's how I kind of started.
Very cool. And now you're a podcaster going through the whole series. So now that we got your fandom ID out of the way, let's go to, we're going to hop into everybody's favorite section, the Quizzitch section.
This is what makes me the most nervous, by the way.
Here's the thing. So listeners, if you don't know, if this is your first time listening, what I do every single book, I call it a season. And in this season, like every single time, I face off against the guest hosts, and I keep track of who knows more Harry Potter trivia, me or the guest hosts. And the guests, they represent the world, because, I will arrogantly say like, oh, look at me, the greatest Harry Potter fan of all time. And so it was like a fun little challenge. I won season 1, lost season 2, and I'm on the comeback trail this season. But I need to let you know, Dan, I have one hard question, one that I think is easy, and then one incredibly hard in case you took one of mine. But here's the thing. With a lot of my guests, I don't make them hard questions, but I felt no guilt coming up with hard ones for you because you are a professional Harry Potter fan.
Thank you, I guess. Okay.
So I was like, oh, he can take it. He'll be just fine. So how about you go first, ask me your question, and then we'll bounce back and forth.
Okay, and these can be from either chapter that we're doing tonight,
From
right?
either chapter, yeah.
Love it. Okay. I also have an assortment of questions because I didn't know how easy or how hard to go with.
Yeah, I usually gauge it based on what the guest does first, and then I'll throw one somewhat similar, I think.
Okay. I'm going to go with my first question. It may or may not be easier, so we'll figure that out. But I enjoyed the moment in the book, so I kind of wanted to use this as my first question. Why were Mrs. Weasley, Hermione, and Ginny all giggling early in the first chapter?
I made note of this because you and your guest host made a note about this during your episode for it. So they were giggling because Mrs. Weasley was telling them about love potions, talking about love potions, making them back in the day, and they were all just giggling. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah.
Yes. Fantastic. All right. Your question. Not adults, but which children were in the car with Harry on the way to King's Cross Station?
Oh, okay. It was Harry, Ron, Hermione, and Percy.
That's correct. Ding, ding, ding. Very good. Okay. 1-1. Not bad. All right. What's your next one?
All right. I'm gonna bump it up a little bit.
Do it.
Okay. So obviously we get introduced to one of the best creatures in Harry Potter, and that's the hippogriff. So my question for you is, what colors were the hippogriffs that were introduced?
You know, I even, when I read that section today, I was like, certainly this won't be. And I was especially because it was near the end of the chapter, I was like, I'm so done taking notes.
Yep.
I'm just gonna yada yada through this. Okay, let's see. You can already mark me down as wrong. I'm not going to get all of them right, so I'm just gonna I'm gonna see how many I can remember. There's a bronze one, I believe. Bronze. Is there a? It's like, it says like rouge or something like. Oh, does it start with R? Is there one that starts with R?
Nope.
No, not puce.
You're right there, though.
Yeah, there's a P one, isn't there? Or
There is.
yeah, I'm wrong. I don't have it. What are they?
So there are 5, which made this a little bit harder. But there's stormy gray, bronze, pinkish, which was the one you were all around.
Yeah,
chestnut, and inky black.
Inky black. All right, I got that one wrong. Good question. Good question. And then your question. Let's see. Where is which tower is the divination tower?
Oh, well, I have to get that one with all my Trelawney takes, right?
That's what I'm saying.
North Tower.
North Tower. That's correct. Ding, ding. All right. So 2-1. Guest got the one over on me this time around. The world punched me right in the face. Good job, world. I'll be back next episode, though. But just for fun, here's my extra question.
Ooh,
see if you
okay.
can get it right, just for funsies. What does Trelawney say to Pavarti Patil? What is her prediction for Pavarti?
Oh, it's beware redheaded men.
That's
Or
right.
redheaded men. Yeah.
I love that moment so much. And then she like looks at Ron and scoots away from him. It's these chapters were a lot funnier, especially the second one than I had remembered. Quite enjoyed it. And then audience, your Quizzitch question for the week before we hop into our chapters. Your question is, what does Harry have for breakfast his first morning at Hogwarts this year? So your question of this episode, what does Harry have for breakfast on his first morning? If you want to answer that, you can write into theretoldpodcast@gmail.com or message me on Instagram at theretoldpodcast. Reparo. My apologies, dear listeners. I did not do 2 things on this episode. The first was that I did not update you guys on the score of the Quizzitch competition. And so last week, we finished with a score of 3-2. Guests were in the lead. And after this week, guests did better than me again. Dan got 2 right. I got 1 right. So the score currently is 5-3. I am losing, unfortunately. But there's always next week. And I also forgot to give the answer for the Quizzitch question last week. And the question last week was, what did the Muggle News give as the reason for, the accident that killed all 13 people with Sirius? And the answer to that question was, they explained it as a gas explosion. And yeah, that's really all I got. Okay, back to the podcast. So without further ado, Dan, are you ready to get into some chapters?
I am, yes.
All right. So usually I start off with some opening thoughts if I can remember or if I wrote any down. These episodes are easier because I don't have to come up with my own. I listen to my guests' episodes if they've recapped them before and say some of the things they thought about. Just some things that struck me while listening to your 2 episodes. You had the same guest host on each one. I think her name's Elizabeth.
Yes. Yep.
And she confessed to calling Sirius Cyrus growing up, which I thought was a wild take. And she also called Dobby Doopy. So, or Dopey. I'm trying to remember whatever I wrote down.
You have another guest that calls Dobby Dobby, which throws me for a loop every time.
I have one guest regularly comes on. She calls him Dubby. And then, this was cool. One of your co-hosts, Elizabeth, she mentioned she did some digging on these episodes, some good research work. And she said that it actually was a full moon the night before on the train. So, and I think that's worthy to mention before we get kicking off. And I wanted to ask you, have you been to the studio tour in London? Because you were talking a bit about that.
I have.
Tell me more. What's your favorite thing about it? What's it like?
Well, first of all, it's really cool when you enter because they literally create the Great Hall doors and you walk through the Great Hall into the Great Hall, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
But since we're talking these two chapters, one of my favorite parts of the studio tour is the hippogriff that they have.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fully animatronic and it will respond to you. So when you walk past it, you can bow to it and it will bow back to you, which is really, really cool.
That's sick.
So that's one of my favorite parts, especially considering we're doing these chapters.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's well worth going. The ride to the Levston Studios was even more interesting. We had a guy that had never read the books or seen the movies.
He's just showing up in a fever dream, really. Then.
Yeah, and we're like, why are you doing this? But
he goes, I live here. I can do what I want.
Pretty much, yeah.
I'm so jealous of people like that. Now, the other thing some of the other things I'll mention as we talk about them in the episode. So, but anyway, without further ado, let's hop on in. So, listeners, what we're going to do now, I'm going to recap what happens in the chapter, kind of give a retelling of it, if you will. And Dan is free to interrupt me as much as he wants, chime in as much as he wants. If you hear him cutting me off, he's not being rude. He's doing what I asked him to do. All right, so here we go. Starting off, Tom, our beloved toothless walnut, wakes Harry up as he's getting ready. Ron comes in the room and he's like, freaking Percy's all mad at me because I ruined the photo of his girlfriend. Harry says, forget that. I got some hot goss. But he can't say it there because that's when Fred and George come into the room. So they go downstairs. It's a bit chaotic down there. Molly's telling them about love potions. Feel like that's not appropriate. Whatever. Harry still isn't able to tell Ron the hot goss. I like Hermione saying to Crookshanks that like she'll let him out on the train. And then Ron kind of grabs Scabbers on his chest and is like, not around my scabby boy, you won't. And I hate that nickname, so I don't think I'll call him that again. Anyway, the ministry cars show up to get them all, and these dudes have style. Like, I liked how well dressed. First of all, it's dark green cars is the cars that they're in.
So I do have a point about the cars and the emerald velvet suits that these guys are wearing.
Heck yeah.
So I'm just going to really ask you a question. Do you think this is Lucius Malfoy's real influence at the ministry?
What, he's like the style king over there?
The style guy? I mean, he's got the hair already, right?
Uh-huh.
So
Absolutely.
I think he's just hooking up the cars with the emerald, like Slytherin kind of colors, making them nice emerald suits. I think it's Lucius Malfoy.
I didn't even think about that. You're probably absolutely right.
His real job at the ministry. Yep.
Yeah. He's rich. He's in with Fudge. Let's just copy him.
Style, man.
I should also point out that as the journey to King's Cross continues, there's a murderer on the loose, and Ron's dad only cares about Harry. I counted 4 times in like 2 pages where it says he like looks at the whole group and only talks to Harry, or says like, only Harry, come with me. He's got his whole family with him, and he's just like, Harry, just you. So great dadding there. They make it to the train station. They sneak behind platform 9 3/4. I like how Percy's first thought, he sees Penelope and he's straight off to riz her up. Priorities, my boy. All right. Like it says, he's throwing out his chest, trying to show off his badge, his head boy badge. Before they load up, we get one more heartwarming moment, one of the most heartwarming moments of the books. You guys talked about this on your episode, but Miss Weasley just momming so hard. You know, she's gathered all of her little chicks together, and she gives them all food and she gives them all hugs. It's one of the sweetest moments. And again, she hugs Harry twice, and it says he didn't mind at all. I love that. Love that.
I had the same note, hugs and sandwiches, just hugs and sandwiches. It's great. And
I even like, she goes, and no, Ron, it's not corned beef. So what is it? Because in book 1, he says she never remembers. She remembered that time. All right. Mr. Weasley says he needs a word with Harry, and he tries to tell him about Sirius, but Harry says he knows already. And Arthur's upset about that because he's like, if you guys remember from last chapter, Harry was dropping some Eves, doing his best Samwise. And I think it's funny, though, because it's somewhat of a relief. You know, Arthur says, I wouldn't have want you to find out that way. However, like, it's kind of nice that I don't have to like delicately handle this conversation anymore or use tact. It's like, oh, you already know? Fantastic.
This is one of the few times where Harry like astutely understands Arthur's position at the ministry, and he's like, "Oh, I don't want to compromise you and your job."
Yeah, that's a good point.
I'm like,
He's
dude, you are young and you're able to comprehend that then? That's cool. That's all right.
I know. Sometimes I wonder, like, there's certain moments where Harry's just a goofball, but others he explains amazing emotional intelligence and situational awareness. And I'm like, is that either him or just like the author's like perspective just seeping in a little bit of like,
sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. And, you know,
which also is true of kids in general. You know, sometimes I'm considerate. But anyway, kids are on the train. I love when Harry says that he has something to say. Ron just looks at Ginny and he's like, "Hey, scram, like beat it, get out of here." That's nice of you. They find a compartment with a sketchy looking sleepy dude in it, and who they surmise is going to be the new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher. How do you always know? It's on the suitcase, Ronald. Harry finally spills the tea to Ron and Hermione, and they are flabbergasted. I like the line where it says, Harry thinks that they're taking it worse than he expected. And I was like, buddy, you told them a murderer was after you. I don't know if you can take it worse than expected when you hear that noise or hear that news. All of a sudden, they hear a funny noise. Ron says it's coming from Harry's trunk. And without asking, he just opens up Harry's trunk, which is a bit presumptuous. But what is it? It's the pocket sneakoscope. Ron thinks it's broken, but it's not. But it's not making me, the reader, feel any better about Lupin. Because, like, why is this thing going off with this sketchy sleepy dude around here? They talk some more about Hogsmeade, and Harry's like, gee, but I guess y'all will enjoy it without me. Tells them he doesn't have his permission slip signed, and Ron's like, no worries, bro. I bet McG will say you're good if you're with us. Hermione's like, Ron, there's a literal murder after him. I don't think so. They chill in the compartment for a while. We get a symbolism. We do get a symbolism. I felt so smart picking up on it. My English teacher wife would have been proud of me, where it says, the Hogwarts Express moved steadily north, and the scenery outside the window became wilder and darker while the clouds overhead thickened. I was like, ooh, because they're heading into the storm, Dan. You get it? Things are getting darker.
Nice.
Genius.
This is the only time, by the way, that I've ever read this, and I've read this a lot, that I picked up on, wow, this really is a long train ride from like London into northern Scotland. It's like 4 to 8 hours. They start like 11 a.m. or noon, and then they end up at dinner, essentially the dinner feast after dark. I'm like, man, this is a really, what do you talk about for like 4 to 8 hours, depending on where in Scotland they are? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm a nerd, so I thought of it, and I love travel. So I'm like, it's just a long.
No, that is interesting. I remember I've never considered how long it was. I remember in high school, when I played soccer, we had a team that was 5 hours away from us, and we would get to leave school like first period. But that car ride got a little tiresome after a while. And they're doing that every year too. So that's interesting. I never picked up on it.
Keeping
a few things.
Kids at this age occupied for like that long, crazy.
Well, they got a crazy trolley witch.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
If you know, listeners. But eventually, Malfoy, Crabbe, and Goyle show up and attempt to pick a fight. I will say, I like to rate Malfoy's insults each time. You know, like, was this a good one? Was this a bad one? And I think he was 1 for 2 on this one. Because when he shows up, where is it? The first thing he says is he calls them Potty and the Weasel. And I was like, that's not that clever. He's warming up. It's the start of the school year. Then he drops another one. He says, I heard your father finally got his hands on some gold this summer, Weasley. Did your mother die of shock? And again, all of these are very mean, very cruel. Never say these, but that is a good one in my awful douchebag opinion. But anyway, he sees Lupin though and is like, shouldn't pick a fight in front of a teacher. And no, you shouldn't, Malfoy. So off he goes. Journey continues. All the lanterns come on in the train. I got to say, this would be a vibe. Okay. I don't know if you do this, Dan, but sometimes I will like, for background music when I do office work, I like to throw up either like Hogwarts Legacy walkthroughs or just the Thunderstorm Castle. So much so that on my computer I'm using right now, anytime I type in YouTube, it autofills Thunderstorm at Hogwarts Castle. It's kind of annoying because sometimes I'm not trying to do that, but that's the one that it autofills every time. And the way it describes this train ride with the storm outside, the rain hitting the windows, it getting dark, lights on or lanterns on in the hallway. Sick. I love this.
I will say I rewatched the movie before coming on because I know you do some of the movie segments, and just watching that movie made me want to play Hogwarts Legacy so bad. Like just the shots of the castle. Oh, it's a beautifully shot movie, and I'm like,
Alfonso popped off on that one.
Yeah, great. It's a really well shot movie, so made me want to play Hogwarts Legacy.
As you were saying that, my mind immediately went to the scene where the camera's coming in on the train from outside while it's raining and kind of dark out, and I'm just hearing the like gullible, boiling trouble. So good. Anyway, out of nowhere, the train slows down. Kids are like, what the heck going on? We ain't there yet. Harry looks out into the hall, and all of a sudden the lanterns go out. He's like, oh man, we just got those turned on. But now it's even spookier, and it's pitch black in there. Nobody can see nothing. Dan, one might say that it's Sirius Black.
Oh, well played. Well played.
Thank you. As they're sitting in there, Neville and Ginny come stumbling in. The trio says, the heck y'all doing in here? I like Ginny's response. You know, I just wanted to be around my brother. Just wanted to hang out with this guy. I like the point.
It's a very sweet
It
comment.
is. And I like the point y'all make in your episode, though, because later we find out that Malfoy went into Fred and George's cabin or compartment. And y'all were saying it makes sense to go to the much older students. Like, go find some seventh years. Be safe with them.
Oh, yeah.
You know? But now there's 5 teenagers in there and they're getting a little noisy. And that's when Professor Lupin finally wakes up, says, hey, y'all, shut up, which is kind of harsh, but understandable. I will say the book says he lights up the compartment by holding flames in his hand. All right. He doesn't do the Lumos. He's holding flames in his hand. That's sick. This book has mentioned several cases of wandless magic. You know, one thing I had never caught before, like Harry makes Marge blow up, obviously, but also when he's walking to the cupboard, it says it just bursts open, a locked cupboard. Like he's making this happen without his wand. I was like, dang, I didn't know Harry could throw down like that. And then we got Lupin, no wand, just fire in hand. Sick. Love that stuff. So anyway, before he can look any cooler, the Dementors show up. And I want to say it's a really scary scene, but also this is a really funny moment to me. So Harry's looking down. I won't read the whole thing, but Harry's looking down at the Dementor's hand. Like it's describing how scary the Dementor is. And he looks down and talks about this scabby, like what's the word when you like hold something in what's soggy and scabby hand, full of decay. But it says it's like the Dementor noticed he was looking at his hand and quickly retracted it. Like, don't look at me.
Self-conscious Dementor.
Yeah, I thought that was really funny. Anyway, Dementor starts doing his Dementor thing. Harry passes out, and he hears a scream from far, far away. Eventually, he wakes up. I think Ron is slapping him in the face. It doesn't say who, but it does say he's being slapped in the face.
It works with any of them, doesn't it? Like you can imagine any of them actually slapping him.
He looks around and he's like, cool, the lamps are back on. Hey, by the way, anyone else hear some screaming? Everyone's freaked out. Nobody else heard screaming. Lupin tells him that it was a Dementor, one of the golden snitches that Barry will tell us about later. But he gives them all chocolate and he rolls out to talk to the conductor. The kids tell Harry that Lupin saved him. And later when he comes back, he's like, hey, I didn't poison that chocolate, y'all. You should probably eat it. Finally, they make it to Hogwarts. They load up in the carriages and head off to the school. Harry thinks, it looks like it's being pulled by invisible horses. Probably not. They go through the gates, and I never caught this before. So you mentioned like things you never thought about, but something I never noticed on all my reads and listens is that there's like Dementor sentinels standing at the gates, and I never caught that moment. So I was
I mean, just trying to imagine that sight must be terrifying, but also very. I mean, that must be a sight.
Yeah, because you got what is it? The Hogwarts logo. What is it? A pig with wings, a boar with wings, and then right below it, Dementor. So as you kind of see this, laugh, funny. Oh, Dementor. Yeah. So anyway, then my next note is screw Neville. This is the worst Neville moment I think of the whole book. Or the whole series, maybe. I hate this part.
He wasn't a bro hair. He was really kind of from under the bus.
So it was very so listeners, what I'm talking about is essentially Malfoy comes up and starts making fun of Harry for fainting on the train. And he says, is what Longbottom said true? So, which means Neville told everybody Harry passed out on the train. And it makes me think, Dan, have you ever watched Friends? TV show?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
I'm a big Friends fan. I reference it like all the time. But there's an episode where Chandler tells somebody a secret and they're looking at him like, why would you do that? And he goes, I tell people secrets. It makes them like me. That's what I thought about Neville in this moment.
I mean, yeah, that's pretty apt. I think that's what he was trying for.
But up at the castle, McGonagall calls Harry and Hermione aside before they can get to the feast. I like Harry's thought because he sees McGonagall and he goes, she always gives me the feeling that I've done something wrong or that I'm in trouble. And then she looks at him and the next line is, don't worry, you're not in trouble. I just want to talk to you guys. In her office, she's like, hey, Harry, Lupin said you couldn't hang. Pomfrey walks in, examines him. She makes one good point talking about how like Dementors should not be around kids. However, she calls Harry delicate, and I thought that was uncalled for.
Yeah, Pomfrey comes in strong here.
I know. Like, of all the people to call delicate, I'm like, this guy literally killed a basilisk last year. What are you talking about, delicate? He got stabbed in the process, too. So anyway, and I have another note. Harry is like me with motion sickness. So, like, this didn't affect anybody else. It only affected Harry. When I go to, my wife and I had season passes to Universal a couple years ago. And have you ever been there, by the way?
Yeah.
On the Hogwarts Forbidden Journey ride, like half the people get motion sick on this. I do almost every time. I have to like squint my eyes or keep one eye shut or something or not look during the screen scenes. So I get it, Harry. You know, it's very the same.
Love that ride though. It's so good.
So good. I just found out I get to go to Epic Universe next month. It's going to be amazing.
Jealous.
Can't wait. I was jealous of every single person that said that they were going. So you can be jealous of me now, Dan. Just kidding.
I'm not going until next summer. So,
oh, you're going to go though?
I am. Yeah, we're planning on going. So it'll just be next summer.
Heck yeah. All right. I won't spoil anything for you then. Have you looked up spoilers for it?
Not really. I've just seen a couple of Fantastic Beasts things about it. And I've heard conflicting things about the Ministry of Magic ride.
I have too. Like I've heard so many conflicting things. So I'm curious to form my own opinion. Anyway, McGonagall talks to Hermione in private. Weird. Probably not important. Then they all head to the Great Hall. Hermione's like, oh man, we missed the sorting ceremony. Harry says, yeah, the author probably didn't want to come up with another Sorting Hat song. They're all like, good point. And they head off to their seats. Dumbledore stands up, tells the students, good news, bad news, y'all. Bad news. We got some Dementors around here. Definitely not good for children, but they're looking for Sirius Black. By the way, don't take them off. They're super not safe. But good news. We got 2 new teachers. Lupin, y'all met him earlier this chapter. He's the new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher. And Hagrid, and he's now the the professor for care of magical creatures. Yay, good job, Hagrid. I love all that stuff of Hagrid, like getting sentimental. It says he's like looking at his hands.
Yep.
Oh, it's so sweet.
I have 2 questions for you on this.
Yes.
On this little breakdown of the teachers.
Mm-hmm.
One, Lupin. Do you think it was coincidental or orchestrated that he ended up in Harry's compartment on the Hogwarts Express?
See, I'm glad you brought this up because you guys talked about this on your episode, and I was like, that's a good question. I definitely think it was orchestrated. I do. Yep. And whether it was because of like the threat of Sirius being on the loose now, and they're like, hey, maybe we should have a teacher on here to protect some of the students, or whether it was because they just thought, hey, maybe it's just good practice to have some more adults on this train, because Harry goes, well, I've never seen a teacher on here before. And I'm like, maybe you should have. So, yes, I did. What do you think though?
I also agree. I tend to lean on it's definitely a purposeful thing to have Lupin not only on the train. I get there's other reasons for him having to take the train, but I think it's definitely more than a coincidence that he ended up with Harry. So,
yeah.
The other question I have for you. Do you think Hagrid could do like a Billy Madison type deal here and like go back to Hogwarts and finish out his schooling?
Oh, they
Is
would
that a
never
plausible
allow it.
thing?
I mean, I think it would be sick. I'm sure there's like AU fan fiction about it, but Hogwarts is very much the school that would be like, "You're good." You know,
That's true.
I would enjoy watching something like that, though. Like
I
today,
just feel like it's odd that you go from not finishing out your education to now you're a professor there. I feel like they should at least fast tracked his like GED, like a
Yeah.
Hogwarts version of like just a diploma. And
what we didn't see was like the study montage over the summer of Dumbledore and Hagrid just out in the hut, just training and working forward.
cranking through some OWLs and stuff. Yeah.
So anyway, they eat the feast, head to the dorm, and that's the end of the chapter. Yay. We made it. All right, Dan, you got some favorite lines?
I do. I got two moments that I just want to shout out really quick. One's at the beginning and one's at the end of the chapter. Really quick at the beginning with the whole Ron dripping some tea on the picture. And Penelope says it's like she's hidden her face underneath the frame because her nose got blotchy.
Yes, I love that.
I love all of the pictures / paintings and how they interact with the real world. I find it fascinating. So the idea that he dropped some tea on her and she got like her picture got distorted. So she's like, I can't be in this frame anymore. It just fascinates me.
Yeah, that makes me think of like in book 2, in the picture that Colin took of Harry and Lockhart. When Colin brings it to Harry to show him, it said like Harry was pleased to see that his photograph self was trying to put up a fight to like walk out of the frame, and Lockhart was trying to pull him back, and then like rests against the side of the picture when he can't get him.
It's great.
But yeah.
The second one comes at the end, and we kind of already glanced on it, but it's Pomfrey. Oh, it's you. I suppose you've been doing something dangerous again. I'm like, Pomfrey, like you're coming in with some hot fire for like no reason. You're coming in hot. First
Yeah, it's
day.
like my boy just saved the school last year. What are you talking about? That was 2 months ago.
I get it if she's like burned out towards the end of the year. Sure. Every teacher, everybody that works in a school gets a little sassy towards the end of the year because whatever. First day.
She's ticked that she's got to come back. That's what it is. Give her time. Hopefully she'll settle down. So one of my favorite lines is near the beginning. We referenced it, but Mrs. Weasley kissed all her children, then Hermione, and finally Harry. He was embarrassed, but really quite pleased when she gave him an extra hug. Oh, so sweet. You said moments, but did you have any more favorite lines?
No, those were my two big ones.
Cool.
Yep.
All good. So then my other ones, I had a lot in these chapters. I was actually kind of surprised at one thing I thought about, because on your episodes, you do one chapter an episode. And after these chapters, I was like, shoot, I think once book 3 is over, I might need to hop to that model because these are some thick chapters.
Yeah, I don't know how you do 2 per.
Yeah,
you're early, but later it gets rough trying to fit it all.
It's already rough with these two. So I was like, we'll take stock at the end of book 3, see how season 3 went, and then we'll see what happens. But anyway, my other favorite line, just when they're describing the effects of the Dementors, an intense cold swept over them all. Harry felt his own breath catch in his chest. The cold went deeper than his skin. It was inside his chest. It was inside his very heart. At one point it said he was drowning in cold. There was a rushing in his ears as though water. He was being dragged downward. Oh, just great writing. Love that stuff. I don't love it for him, but it's good stuff. And then I had just a few more. Again, there was a lot. But when Hagrid sees them when they get off the Hogwarts Express, all right, you three, Hagrid yelled over the heads of the crowd. I this genuinely shows that he has such a good connection with those 3 specifically, and making a call out to them. It'd be funny if he shouted, "Heard you fainted, Harry." But another one I had, and I think I just got 3 more. You couldn't help trusting Albus Dumbledore, and as Harry watched him beaming around at the students, he felt really calm for the first time since the Dementor had entered the train compartment. Again, think what you want about Dumbledore, and we'll probably talk more about it, later as the series progresses. But that is a heartwarming line. That's the kind of effect a professor should have on their students. It's safety, comfort, not like some other teachers. And then I'm talking about Snape, by the way, not Trelawney. Don't you get worked up. And then another one. Harry, Ron, and Hermione were the last to stop clapping. As Professor Dumbledore started speaking again, they saw that Hagrid was wiping his eyes on the tablecloth. Again, sweet Hagrid moment. And then final line, I know there's a lot of them, but final line. Harry climbed the spiral stair with no thought in his head except how glad he was to be back. They reached their familiar circular dormitory with its 5 four-poster beds, and Harry, looking around, felt he was home at last. This is how I feel when I read any Harry Potter book. Like, I'm home again.
No, it's an iconic line, just, Hogwarts is my home kind of vibe.
Mm-hmm.
You see it everywhere, and it's so true. Whether it's Harry with Hogwarts or us with the series, it kind of resonates.
Yeah, so I love that one. All right, now moving on to our Transfigurations. And listeners, these are differences that the movies made from the books. So the first one, again, as always, a lot of omissions. Most of what we see in these are omissions. The ride to the train station, hanging out with the emerald velvet suited dudes, that's not in there.
Lucius's face is too expensive. They can't put it on screen.
Fair enough. There's no frog choir in the book, which that's actually like an addition that the movie's made, which I think is a beautiful touch. I love the frog choir. Ginny and Neville don't come into the compartment in the movie whenever the Dementors attack. They never show up in there. It's just Harry, Ron, Hermione, and Lupin. We don't get any sick hand flames either. Lupin just does his little spell. That whole scene is a good bit different because we don't see Lupin talk to the Dementor in the movie. He just casts Expecto Patronum and gets him on out of there. And then not a lot. Again, like I said, it's mostly omissions, but the last one I have for this is the McGonagall scene is omitted as well, where they go see her in her office and Pomfrey checks on Harry, all that stuff. So there's your Transfiguration section. Now moving on to our Golden Snitch section. Now, this was crazy. These chapters are chock full of golden snitches, little behind the scenes lore grabs, things like that. First one I have for you listeners, Intercity 125. So when I was reading it, I saw this word and it's just Mr. Weasley is staring at something called the Intercity 125. I'm like, what is that? Apparently I'm not a train person because it's a train. It says the Intercity 125 is a Muggle diesel electric train made up of 2 locomotives, one at each end of a fixed formation of carriages, and is capable of 125 miles per hour in regular service. That's pretty sick. I don't know how this person found this is on the Harry Potter wiki, guys. I don't know who found that out or where it says citation needed. So maybe they came up with that themselves, but that is a thing. The other golden snitch, we get our first mention of honeydukes. All right. I freaking love honeydukes. In the wizarding world, I'm hitting that place up, getting butterbeer fudge. But Honeydukes was a wizarding sweet shop located on High Street in the all-wizarding village of Hogsmeade. It was first established in 1641 and was owned by Ambrosius Flume and his wife, and was filled with shelves upon shelves of the most succulent-looking sweets imaginable. In addition to the standard wizarding candy that was sold there, the owners also made their own fudge and chocolate. For obvious reasons, the shop was quite a popular destination for Hogwarts students when visiting Hogsmeade on the weekends and during the Christmas season. One could barely move due to the crowd of visitors. Same at Universal. Sometimes it's very difficult to move through there. It actually has this whole history to it that this is already going to be a long episode, so I'm not going to read it here, but maybe I'll talk about it on a special bonus episode full of golden snitches. But listeners, check out the Honeydukes wiki page on the Harry Potter wiki. Our next golden snitch, we had to mention it. Ron wanted pepper imps. And pepper imps were tiny black peppermint sweets that allowed the consumer to breathe fire and make them smoke at the ears and nose. They were sold at Honeydukes. And that's about all it really says there. I think that's what they're having at the beginning in the third movie when they're all in their the dorm room and they're all having.
It's a cool scene.
Yeah, it's a really cool scene. It's fun bro moment. And they all we'll take one, listeners. If you remember, they'll take a pepper imp and sort of, what's it called? Make animal noises as well. The other behind the scenes thing about these pepper imps sold at Honeydukes at the Wizarding World of Harry Potter as well. But in the real world, they are cinnamon flavored hard sweets Contrary to the book's description, they are red in color instead of black. So
This
real
chapter
life
lays a
change.
lot of groundwork too, because there was a couple of things where I'm like, oh, this is alluding to stuff later in this book. This could be stuff later in the series.
I know. I was like, there's so many golden snitches here. I might cut down on it, but I'll just say two more for this chapter. We have the Goblin Rebellion of 1612 was mentioned, one of a series of rebellions in which the goblin population of the wizarding world revolted against the discrimination demonstrated towards their kind by wizards. The cause of this particular rebellion seems to have been most likely the lack of goblin representation on the Wizengamot. Took place in 1612 near Hogsmeade. After the rebellion was over, one of the horns the goblins had used to rally troops was discovered behind the Hogshead Inn and stuffed with gorgonzola. It was later placed in a cabinet in the bell tower entrance hall. So there's your fun facts, listeners. Your last golden snitch. I'm not even going to say all this because it's a lot of stuff, but basically they mentioned Dementors in this. Obviously, we get our entrance to them. Rather than, I think it's made clear, we can talk about them later, but they are the guards at the wizard prison in Azkaban. But I think what I want to mention about them is this little behind the scenes fun stuff on the wiki about them. One thing it said, according to Wombat, which is the wizard's ordinary magic and basic aptitude test, Dementors may be unknown in tropical regions. I like in your episode, I liked how you guys talked about it's cool that they made fear manifest, so that you can, rather it being this ethereal thing, it's like it reminds me of that one line: if it can bleed, it can die, like from the Predator, I think. And so, but this kind of idea that you can actually see the thing, therefore you can take it down, essentially.
It's such an interesting type of creature, I guess. One theme that we have in our podcast is all of these characters, every single one of them needs some sort of therapy. And here we have
absolutely
the Dementors as this visceral depiction of fear and depression and anxiety and what it does to a person. And it's just such an interesting back and forth that you get with Dementors throughout.
Absolutely. I think I'm not going to say everything else here because a lot of it is spoilery. However, one last cool thing about Dementors, there is a species of wasp, the Ampulex Dementor, is named after the Dementor. The name was chosen to reflect the fact that the wasp uses a toxin to neutralize the neural behavior of cockroaches and make them docile, as if their souls had been sucked out. So there's your fun thing. And yeah, so moving on now. That's all we got for that chapter. Dan, do you need a break before we head on to chapter 6?
No, I think I'm good.
Fantastic. Let's keep it trucking. So chapter 6, Talons and Tea Leaves, opening thoughts. Like I said earlier, this is a fun chapter.
I have nothing to say about this chapter. I have absolutely.
Listeners, we're going to get into some juicy restricted section stuff later. But Dan's quite, you'll be, I can't wait for you to hear his take on Trelawney. It is one of the most unique takes I've ever heard about Professor Trelawney, ever. But very funny chapter. I enjoyed it a lot. I enjoyed it so much that, I definitely took notes a lot quicker in this one. I was like, I'm so tired. So we might go a little bit quicker through this one, but more time in the restricted section. Anyway, first day of school, they wake up and they go downstairs to the Great Hall for some brekkie. What did Harry have for breakfast? Nice try, listeners. I'm not going to tell you that. That's cheating. That's your quizzes question. Malfoy and the Slytherins do a horrible job making fun of Harry for something that's actually terrifying, because they're all like, oh, Harry, you're afraid of fear incarnate. It's like, yeah. The frick you mean? I do like that Fred and George dunk on Malfoy, though. They're like, and I like it said either Fred or George looks at Malfoy calmly. Like he looks over there like, what's he talking about? He was just as scared. Like, he was probably the most scared. Comes running into a hard cabinet.
What do you think this says about Fred and George, though? Because what we know about them is they're loud. They have no problems sharing their opinions on anything. They don't mind cracking a joke or two in public with a crowd, and yet they know this embarrassing thing about a Slytherin who's prominent and causing their brother a lot of problems, causing their family a lot of problems, and they don't shout to the rooftops about Draco's experience.
That's a great point. I think 3 things to be going on. 1, either it's just inconsistent character, but I like to try to find fixes. So I think what it could also be is either they just woke up. They're some sleepy boys. I remember like in Chamber of Secrets, Wood wakes them up early for practice and they're falling asleep. So maybe something like that. Maybe they're not early risers. But number 3, and this is what I like to believe the most, I think that they probably just can, at this point in the series, consider Draco that insignificant. They're like, they don't even care that, because I remember at the beginning of, or in Chamber of Secrets, when they see Draco on the Quidditch, or getting ready for Quidditch, they're like, aren't you like Malfoy's son? Like they don't even know who he is. They're like, oh yeah, that's who you are. So maybe
I like that line.
Yeah. So maybe they just think he's insignificant. But anyway, Ron questions Hermione's schedule. He's like, how the heck are you going to make it to all these different, you got 10 classes. We don't have that many hours to go to class. You got 3 right away, all at the same time. And I love Hermione's answer is just basically, don't worry about it. Wonderful answer. And she kind of gaslights him hard on it. It's like, you're being ridiculous, Ron. They go off to try to find divination. You were talking about this earlier whenever you were saying like your love for the portraits in the wizarding world and how they interact. I like this moment because it says, it specifically says that Harry's looking at it and he goes, the narrator says, Harry always just enjoyed watching the portraits. And he's just watching it. Yeah. You guys point out on your episode for this that there is like a gradual buildup in this, that it's just a blank open field. And then you see a cow or whatever it was. And then Cadogan appears. So Harry's looking at this painting when they can't find their way to the North Tower. And all of a sudden they meet Sir Cadogan. How do you say it? Cadogan? I can't.
I've always said it Cadogan. But pronunciations in Harry Potter, who knows?
Yeah, I think I get most of mine from Jim Dale. And so I heard him say Cadogan, but I heard somebody say Cadogan, and I was like, that can't be right. I can't be right.
Nothing sounds right except Cadogan or Cadogan to me.
Yeah.
Whatever.
But anyway, he's a painting knight, and while he's not good, he is great. Like, I love this guy. His insults, we're talking about insults. His insults are top tier. He calls Harry, he says, draw, you knaves, you dogs. Later he goes, get back, you scurvy braggart, back, you rogue. And we need to bring these back. We need to bring these back.
He's a, whatever you want to call him, a sketch, a painting, who knows who he is and what he's about. And just live
quest.
Live that painted life. That's all good.
That's right. And I like in the movie, he's like hanging out in the paintings with some of the ladies in the other paintings. Like he's getting around.
He's trying.
He is trying. I think the movie version is even friendlier to him than the book one.
Yeah, probably.
But anyway, Harry does get him to lead them to the North Tower when he's telling them that they're lost. And Cadogan's like, oh, shoot, a quest? I'm all about those. So they get to divination class finally. The entrance is sick. It's a trap door in the ceiling with a ladder that falls down. They get in the classroom. Classroom looks dope. It's got perfume. That's not a look, that's a smell, but still it adds to the ambiance. It's got some comfy chairs, tables everywhere. Sick looking classroom. And this may be, you'll like this, Stan. This may be the best teacher entrance we're given in the whole series. Like, I love this teacher entrance. Think whatever you want about Trelawney, listeners. But so one thing I really tried to do was empty my mind of like preconceived notions about Trelawney, like what I know of her from later in the series too.
Yeah.
And I was like, if you're reading this for the first time, because I can't remember my first time reading this, but if you're reading it for the first time, what is the impression you have of her? And it's pretty sick. Like, I know later the kids make fun of her as a fraud. And again, we'll talk more in restricted section stuff, but I don't get those vibes from this first interaction. Like, she seems pretty legit in this first interaction. Over the top, yes. But also, it's like, that's par for the course at Hogwarts. What are you talking about? But yeah, so her entrance, Harry's immediate impression was of a large, glittering insect. Trelawney moved into the firelight, and they saw that she was very thin. Her large glasses magnified her eyes to several times their natural size, and she was draped in gauzy spangled shawl. Innumerable chains and beads hung around her spindly neck, and her arms and hands were encrusted with bangles and rings. And then she just goes on, like, I wrote down, she does her best Paul Atreides impression. Have you seen Dune?
I have, yeah.
The second one?
Yeah, yeah.
I love, listeners, if you don't know, in Dune 2, there's this scene where the main character basically goes around, starts saying everything that everybody's dreamed about in this like huge gathering. It seems always so funny to me because I picture him saying like, and you wet the bed at night, and somebody's like, kill him. But that's essentially what Trelawney does in this moment. She's going around just calling out everybody, making predictions about each person. And spoiler, like almost all of them come true. Actually, they kind of all do in a way. Spoiler. I won't say anymore. We'll get to them. But anyway, so it's a pretty sick moment. They start reading some tea leaves. I like the Harry and Ron exchange of like, what do you see? A bunch of soggy leaves. Hermione does draw first blood. So there's this bad vibes between Hermione and Trelawney.
That is putting it mildly.
That's putting it mildly. And I listened to your episode, and again, I like your defense of it, and we'll talk more about it. But the issue that I do take in this moment is that Hermione is the one to draw first blood in this because where is it? Let me find the line. They're looking at the tea leaves, and Trelawney says that the Falcon, my dear, you have a deadly enemy, talking to Harry. She's doing her teacher thing. She's reading the stuff. And Hermione, well, they do. Everybody knows about Harry, and you know who. Like, everybody knows that. And I was like, that is
unnecessary and rude.
At this point, don't get me wrong. I think Trelawney does end up doing stuff that is rude back.
Sure.
But at this point, she has not done anything. And to her credit, I think Trelawney handles this moment well because she just looks at her and then looks back. Gets back to what she's doing. So anyway, Hermione draws first blood. Trelawney does get a little dramatic, though, when she predicts Harry's death. All right, she probably shouldn't have done that in front of the whole classroom of like shouting, "You're gonna die!" And like, well, maybe a little over the top, Professor. That's. I feel like that's a private conversation.
I'm not saying that Trelawney doesn't have issues.
Oh yeah. No, but she is defensible, I think, in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
But Hermione tries to disagree, and Trelawney owns her. Oh my goodness! All right, listeners, don't get me wrong. I'm not that big a fan of Trelawney, and we'll have fun talking about this. But I do like this interaction, and there is a moment where she does, especially given modern slang.
2025 Trelawney. 2020, oh man,
she looks at Hermione.
She's like 2 decades ahead of her prime here.
Yeah. She looks at Hermione after Hermione said another insulting thing, and she goes, "You'll forgive me for saying, dear, but I perceive very little aura around you." And I was like, "Ooh, given our slang nowadays, that's a burn."
So when I read this for my podcast, like whatever it was, a year and a half, 2 years ago, this line meant nothing to me, and I overlooked it, didn't mention it in my episode. Now it means something, and it clicked in my head, and I'm like, oh my goodness.
See, you ain't got no aura. That's crazy.
And that's why you do rereads, everybody.
That's why you do rereads. They get funnier. So anyway, that's divination class. They head off to Transfiguration. McGonagall is explaining what animagi are, people that can turn into animals. And then we get one of the best McGonagall moments of the series, I feel. Like, this is so funny to me. McGonagall, like, she transforms into a cat in front of all the students. And then she, like, pops back into normal, and she's like, listen, I'm not saying I deserve applause, but that's the first time I've never gotten applause for that. So what the heck's going on? Like, I just did something dope. What's going on with... I love that because McGonagall is such a... that describes her as a tightwad. It describes her as strict and all this stuff. But in this moment, she's like trying to have a little fun with her students. She goes, "What the heck? I just did something kind of funny and cool. You guys would normally eat that up."
It like humanizes her a little bit.
Yeah.
Much more relatable.
They tell her that they just got back from divination. And I'll say this. McGonagall says some not nice things about Trelawney.
Yeah.
However, I think she starts well and ends well. It's the middle part that's bad. So I think it's a mixture of what she tells the students is a mixture of like comforting them. You know, I think her saying, oh, Trelawney predicts somebody's death every year. I think that's appropriate comfort given what happened. But then when she says like the line of, oh, there's two really bad ones. If it were not for the fact that I never speak ill of my colleagues, it's like, you don't say that to students. You don't say that to them.
Yep.
And then she also said, I shall not conceal from you that I have very little patience with it, talking about divination. It's like, you also don't disrespect another teacher's class. So a little rough there.
Mm-hmm.
But then, you know, she ends well. You look in excellent health, Potter, to me, Potter. So you will excuse me if I don't let you off homework today. I assure you that if you die, you will not need to hand it in. And that's kind of, again, mix of comfort, but also some disrespect.
Yeah.
Then let's see. After and that's basically Transfiguration class for them. So after that, they head to lunch. Ron's like, you know, as long as Harry hasn't seen a big black dog, I think we're good. And Harry goes, it's funny you mentioned that. I did see one. Ron's like, dadgummit. He and Hermione argue some about it. What I appreciated about this, I really like how clever some of the dialogue is. Like a lot of the dialogue is in this book, and their argument, their back and forths, they both make good points with each other during that argument. I won't get into it because again, it's going to be a long episode, but some good moments there. Anyway, they get ticked at each other. It's one of those moments in the series where one of many to come listeners, Hermione and Ron, don't talk to each other on the way to a class. But anyway, Ron and Hermione argue, off they go to Care of Magical Creatures. Hagrid's posted up outside his hut looking cool with Fang next to him. He tells them all to follow him, and they walk to a paddock. I like this. In your episode, you said, when I hear the word paddock, I think of Jurassic Park.
100%.
I think that exact same thing. Like whenever it talks about a paddock, I'm like, I'm back in that ride at Universal of they've gotten loose from the paddock. I was like, no. It's a good call out there. Hagrid tells them to take out their books and explains to them that they're just little. All right, you're not going to get this because I made this on a joke on an episode that hasn't come out yet. But he tells them, talking about their books, that they're just little page flippy doggos, and you got to pet them. My wife didn't think that was a good name for them. Do you remember that fad of calling everything a certain type of doggo?
Yep.
As that was me when I read that.
A lot of people still do. Yeah.
What is it, like a sea doggo talking about otters? And then this one, I was like, it's a page flippy doggo. He's like, you just got to pet him. I'm so funny. Anyway, he goes to the forest and brings out some hippogriffs, which are these big old bird horse thingies with a bunch of different colors. There was, not looking, there was bronze. There was a pinkish one, a stormy gray.
Yeah.
And then that's all I can remember. So anyway, there's two more guys somewhere in there. Hagrid explains that the hippogriffs are proud creatures and you better not insult them. There's also a note saying that Malfoy wasn't listening. I'm sure that's not important. Like when Hagrid says, you need to bow first, and if they bow back, you're good. But if they don't, get out of there because they will cut you. He's like, they have really sharp claws. You better move. Hagrid asks who wants to pet one first. Harry says he can do it. And Hagrid introduces him to Buckbeak. Harry, Buckbeak. Buckbeak, Harry. He says, don't blink. I like this. He tells Harry, like, hey, make sure you don't blink at him. And Harry's like, well, I have to now that you told me not to. I wasn't thinking about
all
it before.
You can think about.
Harry bows to Buckbeak. And at first, Buckbeak has to think about it. But then he's like, you know what? You're the main character. I guess I'll bow. Hagrid and everybody gets really hype about that. Hagrid says, sick. Now you get to fly him. He puts Harry on top of Buckbeak's back. Don't pull out any of his feathers. Buckbeak drops or does a leap in the air and flies around the paddock one time, and they land. Harry says, I thought I would get to fly around the whole school. And Hagrid says, nope, that's just in the film adaptation, Harry. Anyway, now everybody starts bowing to some hippogriffs. And Dan, get this. Buckbeak even bows to Malfoy.
I know.
I thought that was pretty significant. Even bows to Malfoy in this scene.
But not Crabbe and Goyle.
No. Fair enough.
He recognizes a pecking order. Buckbeak.
You, top of food chain. Respect. Yes. But then tragedy strikes. He insults the hippogriff, and Buckbeak's like, these claws ain't just for attracting mates. Do you get that reference? Anything? It's from SpongeBob. It's Mr. Krabs when he's about to fight. I've never seen it. Stupid show. Anyway, class is ruined once Malfoy gets attacked. Hagrid takes Malfoy to Pomfrey. The kids go to dinner. Later in Gryffindor Tower, they're like, hey, let's go check on our boy. They sneak off to Hagrid. He's a little bit in his cups. All right. They try to comfort him and say Malfoy was just being a poopy head. And a wuss. Harry makes a good point that Pomfrey can fix just about anything. Like, he'll be all right. Hermione, this is kind of sad that a freaking 13-year-old has to do this, but she pulls a bartender and she's like, I think you've had enough, Hagrid. I'm cutting you off. And he's like, you're right. All right. And he goes outside, dunks his head in some water. He comes back in. And then he gets angry and he's like, oh, shoot, y'all got to go back inside. And he takes them up into the castle. And that's how our chapter ends. Yay.
Couple of things.
Right. Yes.
So first, this mention of Board of Governors of Hogwarts, hilarious to me. Like, what are they doing for most of everything? It's crazy. I think we hear of them first in Chamber of Secrets with the whole basilisk thing.
Yeah, I kind of view it almost like I'm a youth pastor, and at the church that I work at, there's a preschool attached to it that like rents out part of the facility. And some of the elders at our church are on the preschool board, but it's very much just as like, they're just there. Yeah. It's like really not much of a purpose being served.
Right. But I love that Hagrid can sober up after just dunking his head in water. Wonderful.
He's just like, let's go, round 2.
But here's an interesting point that I picked up on this reread alone and never before. Harry goes for a ride on this hippogriff. Hippogriff lands, Harry's okay. It says, quote, everyone except for Draco, Crabbe, and Goyle cheered Harry's return. Everyone. Later, Pansy says, oh, they should fire Hagrid. Well, if Pansy's there and everyone cheered, that means Pansy cheered for Harry coming back?
Hey.
Do we have good Slytherin representation in this chapter that's just buried?
I think so. It's a good moment.
And then just move on.
She was just caught up in the hype. She's caught up in the hype.
But I find that super. I'm like, hey, wait a second now. If there's one of 3 Slytherins in this class.
Yeah, that's a really good call out. I never thought of that.
I just noticed it on this read. I'm like, hey, wait a second.
Very cool. All right. Now moving on to our favorite lines. Again, I got a few. Do you got some?
I do. Yeah. Surprisingly, you can guess which character, but yeah.
How about let's bounce back and forth. You say your first one.
Okay. I'm going to start with basically my whole thesis point going.
Oh, please do.
Into future discussions on this episode.
Okay.
But here's the main quote I take away from Trelawney's class. Quote, so you have chosen to study divination, the most difficult of all magical arts. I must warn you at the outset that if you do not have the sight, capital S, there is little I will be able to teach you. Books can take you only so far in this field. I think it's a great thesis to her character and to her class and to her classroom.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Especially, we'll get into it, but yeah, that's a great line there. I like Cadogan getting hype about the quest. A quest! The knight's rage seemed to vanish instantly. He clanked to his feet and shouted, come follow me, dear friends, and we shall find out our goal, or else shall perish bravely in the charge. I was like, heck yeah. And then later he goes, once the pony won't take him, on foot then, good sirs and gentle lady, on. I love that. What's another one you got?
Again, dipping into the Trelawney quote bag here. We got, broaden your minds, allow your eyes to see past the mundane. which if you take it in the kooky Trelawney sense, it's like, all right, whatever. But I think it's a really good way to just look at things in general with an open mind and kind of think of more than just what's in front of you. And that's kind of what she's getting at. And that's obviously what the tea leaves are, is think of more than just some raggedy remnants of tea.
Yeah.
So I just thought it was a really cool quote for her and for her class. And as a Ravenclaw, we get stuck in this, smart, wisdom, witty box, but there's a lot more to wisdom than just 1 + 1 is 2. There's thinking outside the box.
Yeah. I like that one too, especially in regards to like, there's that line from, what's his name? Arthur, when he says, muggles, they would deny magic if it was staring them in the face, like looking up all these reasons to not see magic. And this is like deeper magic, for wizards of like, you would deny this even if it was right in front of you, which for a lot of Trelawney's predictions do play out right in front of them. Very good. And so another one I had, we referenced it, but McGonagall, really, what has gotten into all of you today? Said Professor McGonagall, turning back into herself with a faint pop and staring around at them. Not that it matters, but that's the first time my transfigurations got no applause from a class. I love that. It's like, what the heck going on? I just got 2 more. What about you?
I got one. It's also from Divination, but it's just a funny line. You're going to suffer, but be very happy about it. Great line. I just enjoy it every time, both in the movie and in the book. It's great.
Yeah, it's odd that's I will say in Transfiguration, but given to a different person. But anyway,
that's true.
Then 2 of them that are right next to each other, talking about very similar things. Harry, after he gets Buckbeak to bow to him, feeling that a better reward would have been to back away, Harry moved slowly toward the hippogriff and reached out toward it. I like that because Hagrid says, "Oh, you get to ride it now." And he's like, that's not the reward I had in mind. And then again, while he's flying Buckbeak, it was nothing like a broomstick, and Harry knew which one he preferred. And I like these quick little funny, clever lines. Those are good moments. And then my very last one, where are you? Oh, over here at the end, the very last line of the chapter. When Hagrid says, "Come on," said Hagrid angrily. "I'm taking you're all back up to," I can't say it. I'm just going to say it right. "Don't let me catch you walking down to see you after dark again. I'm not worth that." Just that line of him at the end, that very last sentence, "I'm not worth that." Like, he cares, he values them above their safety, above his very self, and comforting him. Again, I want Hagrid to have a high opinion of himself, but also that is a sweet line. It's a very caring line. It says a lot about Hagrid. So I like that. All right. And now moving on to Transfigurations, differences that the books made from the movies, movies made from the books. First of all, there is no Transfiguration class. All right. We don't get any Transfiguration class in the movie. We also don't get any potions class in the movie either. Snape does teach a class, but different. Anyway, what we just mentioned in Professor Trelawney's class, Ron is the one who says, "You're going to suffer, but be happy about it." And I think he's talking to Hagrid, to Harry during that scene.
Yeah.
So they kind of, that's odd that they would take a prophet. Like, and it's funny because it's like, they don't know how the rest of the books were going to play out. It's odd that they would just take a prophecy or a prediction and give it to him.
I think they just settled on Rupert Grint is just able to sell a funny line. So whether it was Harry who said it, Hermione who said it, whoever who said it, they ended up giving it to Ron and Rupert Grint a lot more often.
Yeah, and he does deliver it very funny. Speaking of divination, the books do not include Bim, that one kid who does all like the scary predictions, talking about black.
Major play.
Yeah, he does. I've messaged him on Instagram some, and he's actually a pretty cool dude.
Really?
Yeah. He's got a cool, his name's like Equo or something like that. Sick
nice
name. But anyway, he is a movie only character, but in the book, Trelawney explains what the Grim is. In the movie, this student, Gryffindor student named Bim, explains it. We also get some omissions. There's no drunk Hagrid. And then there's only in the film only Buckbeak walks out. There's not a whole pack of of hippogriffs. It says in the book that there's 12 of them, but there's only one in the movie, and it's just Buckbeak. Also, as I mentioned, Harry flies around the whole castle in the book. He flies over the lake, around the castle, all this stuff. But in the book, again, just around the paddock. And during the flight, in the movie, Harry really enjoys it. He had a good time. In the book, he's scared the whole time. He's like, I don't think I want to do that again. And the final transfiguration in the film, when Malfoy gets hit by Buckbeak, it doesn't break skin. It just cuts his robe. But in the book, he's actually like pouring blood on the ground. So it's a little more graphic in the book and makes him a little more of a wimp in the movie. But anyway, there's our transfigurations. Onto our golden snitches. So behind the scenes, lore grabs, tids and bits. Again, there's a bunch of them in here that I don't want to spoil a lot because like there's a lot of setup, but just some names to call out. So we got Professor Sylvanus Kettleburn. So we kind of glanced over this, but the reason he was a Care of Magical Creatures professor, and the reason he stopped teaching was because he got all the way down to one arm and half of one leg before he retired. He was born to he's a little bit of early life. Sylvanus Kettleburn was born to a wizard and witch on November 22nd. We get his birthday. He received magical instruction at Hogwarts. He was a Hufflepuff. It seems like outside of Hagrid, all these beast people they put into Hufflepuff. And presumably achieved high ranks, Care of Magical Creatures. At some point in his life, Sylvanus owned 12 Nifflers, pet Nifflers. They destroyed his home, his boat, and his favorite replacement leg. Instead of being sad or angry, however, he was ecstatic and could hardly wait to get 12 more.
Wow.
Aww.
That's a lot of Nifflers.
Yeah, he just loves the little guys. He knew Newt, all that good stuff. Professor Dippet. I think he was employed when Dippet was headmaster. But moving on to the next one, I had Trelawney as a golden snitch. However, I don't want to say too much about her because a lot more cool stuff can be said about her once things are revealed. So listeners, I'm not spoiling you just yet. But she does mention the inner eye. The inner eye, also known as the sight, was a term of divination in which it meant the mind of a seer. The term not only referred to the way a seer's mind saw the future, but also the ability to see the future, which was a rare gift. And only Cassandra Trelawney, her great-great-granddaughter, and her great-great-granddaughter Sybil were said to have it. So there's a little fun fact about the inner eye. Cassandra Trelawney, not mentioned at the moment yet, but she is a super famous seer. And I liked the note in your episode talking about Cassandra was your co-host pointed this out. Cassandra was a person, I think, in Greek mythology, that she was cursed to be correct about her predictions, but nobody ever believed her. So that's a little foreshadowing. Anyway, we also get the mention of Animagus. I'm not going to read all this. There's a lot about Animagus and the whole process. We'll get to that later. Just know, listeners, that Animagus are a thing. It's something that when a person goes through this whole process, they're able to transform into an animal. You don't get to pick the animal. The animal's just given to you, kind of. And you have to be registered with the Animagus registry. So there you go for that. Two more. We got hippogriffs mentioned. A hippogriff was a magical beast that had the front legs, wings, and head of a giant eagle and body, hind legs and tail of a horse. It was very similar to another magical creature, the griffin, with the horse rear replacing the lion rear. I thought this was interesting. The breeding of fancy hippogriffs was an established wizarding career, with known breeders including Newt Scamander's mother. Images of fancy hippogriffs were sometimes put into calendars. So they had calendar hippogriffs.
Calendar model hippogriffs. Okay.
Right? And this is also cool. A hippogriff was one rare possible corporeal form of the Patronus. That'd be a sick Patronus.
It really would be. That would be awesome.
And then finally, last golden snitch for this chapter, we have mention of flubberworms, because Hagrid says, they think I started too big. Think I should have started with flubberworms. The flubberworm was an herbivorous, 10-inch, toothless brown magical worm which ate mainly lettuce and cabbage. It was not considered a particularly interesting creature with a Ministry of Magic classification of X, or, quote, boring, which was the lowest rank possible. Oh, poor little guy. But they made some nice mucus for thickening potions. So there you go. That's all our golden snitches. And now that wraps up our normal coverage of the episode. So before we say goodbye to our listeners who don't want to be spoiled, who don't want to take a gander on down to the restricted section, our Azkaban prison for this book, if you will. I just want to say, Dan, thank you for being on this episode. Could you tell listeners where they can find your podcast?
Yeah, we're available on everywhere you can find a podcast. We're primarily through Spotify, so we put up a lot of polls on Spotify. A lot of listeners comment on Spotify, and that's how we interact with a lot of
questions on there too. Yeah,
I
see that
a lot. But you can also find us at Hogwarts a Pod on Blue Sky, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. We're everywhere. But we really enjoy interacting with everyone and answering questions, getting into debates with fans and listeners. And like I said, we're currently doing Cursed Child. So if you're catching up, we'll cover whatever comments you leave on book 1 or book 7 or Cursed Child. So it's all good. We say some good debatable things from time to time on the podcast, as you're about to see. So it's a fun time. So we love having everybody come in and check it out.
Yeah, listeners, please check them out. I enjoy listening to them. I think any podcast that chooses to enjoy the subject they're covering is way better than any that doesn't. They are not hate readers, and I've come across podcasts like that, and those aren't just any fun to me. He's got a lot of his friends come on, and that's why I love hearing friends talk about things that they love. So please check out that show. Good podcast. Now, goodbye, all you listeners. Next week, we'll be coming back with my best friend growing up, best man at my wedding, I at his, buddy named Zach, and we'll be talking about chapters 7 and 8. Looking forward to that. But for everybody who doesn't want to stay, goodbye. Catch you later. All right, now, here we are. The Azkaban guards have led us, Dementors, taken us to the prison. We're here in the restricted section. Got our note. I'm just going to rattle off some quick ones I pulled out from this chapter. 1, I think these chapters are the first time that it's mentioned that the defense against the dark arts position is jinxed. They specifically say that sentence in the chapter 5, that the position, people think it's been jinxed. And I've always wondered, we do find out later, yes, it has been jinxed by Voldemort, because Voldemort wanted to be a defense against the dark arts teacher. And I always thought, how does one do that? How does one jinx a position?
What creative yet super powerful magic that must be to put on a position. Also, how petty must one be to put that on?
Voldemort petty, which is no. I guess my wife and I are big fans of anime, and there's certain shows that have huge magic systems, like Frieren or Black Clover, in which something they explain about the magic system is magic, and it's a line repeated in several different anime I've watched. Magic is the realm of the imagination. If you can just conceive that you can do it, it can happen. And so perhaps that's how Voldemort was able to curse it. He was just like, I think I can. And he did it. But anyway, there's that one. One thing they say is that nobody has ever escaped from Azkaban before Sirius. And this is interesting because it's later revealed that Barty Crouch Jr. escaped from Azkaban prison, and he technically did it before Sirius did. And I always thought it was odd that nobody ever mentioned in the book, oh shoot, Sirius wasn't the first one. They just dropped the information that Barty Crouch Jr. escaped before Sirius. But I just thought that was interesting call out, because they're like, that's the whole reason it's epic that Sirius did this. He's the first one to do it. He's the first one that done it.
Those two are two very clever characters too. Sirius Black and Barty Crouch Jr. Are really interesting characters to deep dive at some point. So
yeah, I'm looking forward to more episode discussions about them. The other one, I have 2 more. One is there's a call out to the invisible horses that are pulling the carriages. Harry's like, it seems like they're being pulled by some invisible horses. And if you know, dear listeners, you would know that they pretty much are. They're being pulled by the Thestral horses, which if you've seen somebody die and can comprehend the magnitude of that, then you're able to see the horses. My question, can animals and other beasts see the horses or see the Thestrals? I've thought about that just today as I was reading it. I was like, would they be able to perceive them?
I would say yes, because the Forbidden Forest is not a gentle place. So I'm assuming there's a lot of death that happens there on a daily basis amongst the creatures.
Yeah, but it does seem to be that's like the other note about them is that you have to be able to feel the magnitude of the death. And so it'd be a great camouflage for those horses if they stayed invisible forever thereafter. They only go after young then. There you go. Last one, the Buckbeak flight, I think was very the way the book to movie treatment was very similar in regards to the dragon flight in movie 4. Because in this book, Buckbeak just flies up above the paddock and circles around and comes back down. But in the movie, as we talked about, flies everywhere. And then the dragon in book 4, the challenge in the first Triwizard Tournament challenge, in the book, it only flies around. It never breaks its chain. It just flies around its contained area. But in the movie, breaks its chain and flies all over the castle again. I was like, they did the same thing. So anyway, that's all my restricted section stuff. Aside from Trelawney stuff, did you have any others?
I have a couple, actually.
Okay.
I know in chapter 5, I think they mentioned that Fred and George seem to be really good about getting around the castle through secret passageways. Obviously, a nod to the Marauders map later.
That's right.
I liked in this one when they were still trying to read tea leaves. Ron says that Harry will work for the Ministry of Magic someday.
Yeah. Forgot about that.
End up working for the Ministry of Magic as the head of magical law enforcement. And Harry will also come into unexpected gold. Can you lend me some? He does, because he wins the Triwizard Tournament and comes into a whole bunch of gold. Doesn't lend it to Ron, but does lend it to Fred and George. So some interesting, unintentional correct readings from that.
What was your other thing, though?
Let's see. I think there was one other thing I had from... No, you covered it. You couldn't help trusting Albus Dumbledore.
Yeah.
How loaded of a quote is that throughout the series? You couldn't help trusting Albus Dumbledore.
He's a very trustworthy guy.
Okay.
I'm a huge Dumbledore apologist. I love Dumbledore. I think there are some things that are completely indefensible, but it's fun. Like some people will talk about he manipulated Harry, and they'll bring up the pig to slaughter line and all this stuff, and I'm like, but he was right. It did save wizard kind.
He's a great wizard. He does use a lot of pawns to get to where he needs to go. So it's an interesting. Dumbledore is another character. A lot of these characters are characters to really dive into. But
yeah, it's very much like you saved the world by using people, and it's like that last part sounds bad. But if you were to come up with any justifiable excuse, I think saving the world is the best excuse possible.
It's a fun character to deep dive, but I just like that quote being like, "Oh, that's interesting."
All right, let's hear it now. So, listeners, Dan is a Trelawney apologist. I've never heard of such a thing. All right, and I'm going to be on I like the character, but as a character, I do have a lot of dislike for her as well. So let's hear it. This is great. Let's hear your take on Trelawney.
Okay, so when I did this reread for my podcast, I went into it. I tried to go into it with an open mind. Like, hey, I'm taking all this in. Let's see where it goes. Be more objective about it, I guess. And then, but previously I did have the same thought everybody else did. Trelawney's a fraud. She's kind of a nutcase, whatever. Okay. So I'm reading this chapter and we get the line, like I said before, if you do not have the sight, there is very little I will be able to teach you. This is like her first instructions to her class. Like she lays it out there immediately. She's not trying to hide anything. She's not trying to duck anything. That line alone made me recontextualize everything going forward with Trelawney of like, okay, well, she's laying it out there. It's not to Hermione's liking, and it, similarly wouldn't be to Professor McGonagall's liking. They're very similar people, Hermione and McGonagall. By the book, laid out there, academically astute. but, pretty by the book. This is not by the book. This is something different. We get, we get later in the books, we also get some friction between Trelawney and Firenze about the different types of divination. But what they can agree on in the idea of divination is that it's imprecise. Divination
and hard to grasp, at all.
Right. You can try and you can get pretty close sometimes, but it's hard to really fight through the gray and the cloudy and get the exact pinpoint thing, even for the centaurs.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what the issues with Trelawney mainly are in the fandom is, one, you get a lot of negative blowback from Hermione and from McGonagall. But a lot of her stuff is pretty accurate if you really look at everything. Where the issue lies is she's close, but she's not dead on a lot of the times.
Mm-hmm.
So, she'll be looking at a crystal ball and she'll see hey, this kind of looks like something, but I don't know what yet, or I can't pinpoint it, so I'm not going to say it. The lightning struck tower. Well, this doesn't make sense.
That's a great moment.
Reshuffle, gets it again. She's like, oh, what? Reshuffle, lightning struck tower again. Are you kidding me? What is this? She can't pinpoint the exact, but you're not really supposed to in divination. One thing that I didn't mention on my episodes, because I've come to really appreciate it later, is her biggest prediction, I think, in this book, in Prisoner of Azkaban, is when she comes up to, I believe it's Christmas dinner, and she refuses to sit down at the table because there's already, she would make 13.
Mm-hmm.
And if she makes 13, the first person to rise will die. She ends up being wrong because she doesn't know that Scabbers exists as a person. So there's already 13 at the table. Dumbledore's the first to rise. He is the first of that table to die.
Yeah.
That's
what everybody... I will say on that one, I do think, I don't know if I would credit her on that specific one, just because it's not a prediction of hers. It's her saying, this is a thing that exists. This is a common, a fact that when 13 people sit. So it's not like she looked into the future and saw that one. That's the only one I'd push back on.
Sure. It's a divination thing more than anything.
But it shows she knows her subject.
Which McGonagall and Dumbledore, for that matter, kind of slough off as okay, Sybil, whatever. If you don't want to join us, then go back to the tower. Okay, cool. It does happen twice more in the series, though, which I think a lot of people kind of forget about or gloss over, including
I can think of one of those.
The next time it happens is in book 5, Order of the Phoenix.
Yeah.
And they're at a meeting of the Order, and they include Harry and they include the children in this meeting. So there's 13 that end up sitting at the table. The first one to rise ends up being Sirius as he's arguing with Molly about who cares for Harry more. And he rises from the table to really drive home his point. Obviously, the first one to die.
R.I.P.
That one's pretty dead on and specific to the actual divination prophecy, if you will. The other one is a little bit of a stretch, I will admit. But it's book 7. It's after the 7 Potters scene. When they're talking about Moody and they share a drink, and there is 13 at that meeting. They're not seated though, but whatever. Small thing. But Lupin is the first to say that he wants to go look for the body. And Lupin, there's some debate on if Lupin or Fred of that group would be the first. Because we don't really know, because we don't really see those.
But it definitely puts it in the realm of possibility.
It's a plausible other example of that divination kind of prophecy.
I thought you were going to bring up, I was like, what could the second one be? And in my head for a second, I was like, is it the table at Malfoy Manor? And I was like, who stood up first at that table? And I couldn't remember how many people were seated around that table in that chapter and who stood up first. But good catches. I like that.
Yeah. I think Trelawney is an interesting character because a lot of people will point to her teaching as maybe their biggest flaw of hers. And to be honest, I won't push back a ton on that because I think those are her biggest flaws. She does have a lot of issues with communicating with students, putting people on blast in class when maybe some of those predictions should be left to the side. So her teaching, could have flaws. I would prefer that they don't have a practical exam for divination, because what? They should really just have like a written exam where they'd be like, here's what tea leaves, crystal ball, whatever, written exam only, and move on. So there's issues there.
I liked in your discussion on your episode about this with your co-host Elizabeth, who is a teacher. What I sort of surmised from it and came to agree with the perspectives of, she's not a fraud. The accusation of a fraud is not fair. It's not even true because she knows her subject. She teaches it well, she explains it well. The issue is not that she's a fraud. It's that she's not a good teacher. She even says correct thing. I would put her, she's like the other teachers at Hogwarts though, like Snape, who knows his subject well, but he's not a good teacher. Hagrid, who knows the subject well, but not a good teacher. That's what I would kind of view her as.
Yeah, a lot of people, including Professor McGonagall, would bring up like, oh yeah, she brings up death on the first lesson all the time. She always predicts a student's death. A lot of Hogwarts professors do very flashy things to get students' attention on the first day of class.
Yeah, and I would say that it's a little bit unfair. One thing I was trying to think of after I heard of your stance on Trelawney, I was like, because I love McGonagall, and I was like, okay, how else could I picture McGonagall as being wrong? Like if we're practicing extreme ownership, what else did she do wrong here? She's also unfair in treatment of different professors, because you could just as easily take issue with all the things that Snape has done, but she's nowhere near disrespected Snape to that level.
Yeah. You get McGonagall just in this lesson literally admitted to trying to get applause from doing a transformation, which is mild, but still a thing. Obviously, Hagrid tries to do the hippogriff, which is a little overreach on his first day as a teacher. You're about to get to Lupin's first day, which I have issues with Lupin trying to show everybody's greatest fear in a public setting.
You make a good point. I'd never considered this, that everybody's first day is a bit over the top. I'd never considered that. That's a dang good point. That's a dang good point.
Mad-Eye Moody / Barty Crouch Jr. goes over unforgivable curses his first day. Like, you have some crazy stuff happening.
Yeah.
So I'm like, is Trelawney really that over the top? I don't know that she is. So there's that. But some of that over the top personality that she has, I think if we do a little bit deeper of a dive into Sybil Trelawney, I think it's what people project on her. I think it's the Hermiones of the world. I think it's the Dumbledores of the world, the McGonagalls of the world, who don't really think highly of divination and don't really think highly of her. You don't think she hears that? She hears that. And then she tries to prove herself. And I think that comes out the most when Umbridge is trying to evaluate her in book 5. Like, she says some nasty things. She tries to put her on the spot. She tries to poke at her. What Sybil should have done was be like, look, you don't understand divination. You don't understand what the site is. She should have recited her opening line in this classroom.
Yeah.
Is what she should have done to Umbridge. She doesn't. He tries to make a quick prediction.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of sport from a lot of people.
No, I like that take. I like that a lot. And I remember you discussed it somewhat on your episode too, and you fleshed it out more just then. I think it's understandable that the way she responds is by that she would feel the pressure and that she would want to prove herself. Therefore, this is how she responds. The only place that I would push back with this particular is in the classroom with students. It's and I do like you made the point though of, hey, even McGonagall tried to impress. A bunch of these tried to impress. The one with McGonagall I view it as more of having fun with, and this one was very much seeking approval from the students almost, or at least that's what it becomes. I don't think that's what it was this first time, I think this first time she is very much just teaching her subject. Oh, that makes me remember. This is exactly what people on MuggleCast said when it got to this episode. Was it's not like this first lesson, pretty perfect, pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
The only issue was the seeking approval from students later on. But yeah, no, I like a lot of those takes about her.
It's interesting.
Yeah, thank you for sharing all that. Very well thought out. And I listeners, I hope you have been more enlightened and given a more comprehensive view of Sybil Trelawney.
I hope I did it justice.
I think you did. I understood what you were saying in your episode where you brought this up the first time, but you've fleshed it out even more now, and added more caveats as well. So very good. All right. Well, listeners, that's really all I have for this week. Thank you so much for listening. Dan, thank you so much for being a part of this podcast. Like I said, like this was not only a treat for the listeners, it was a treat for me getting to talk to somebody that knows this much about Harry Potter, feels this passionately about it. It's wonderful. I appreciate it so much. I love that people like you exist. So thank you so much, listeners. Please check out Dan's podcast, Hogwarts, a podcast. But yeah, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. This has been fantastic. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Retold. Artwork for this podcast was created by Rachel Ortlip. Music was created by Taylor Jarvis. And the Retold podcast is produced by me. That's right. I made this.